only, just still under 3 months since, it seems about 3 years that Starmer's been there. Under 3 months that Mr Starmer took office as the first Labour leader since 2010. And there he is, proclaiming all manner of bits and pieces, like getting rid of fuel allowance for pensioners being the obvious one, big pay rises for some of the unions, and this as well, the idea that he sort of went there because he previously talked about there being a light approach from government, and of course governments will say, or governments in waiting will say flipping anything to try and get elected. I want to have sort of slightly hands-off approach. Now he's got the big gig. He's let it be known, no messing around really. He's come straight out with it. Yes, we think there is areas where the government will take control in people's lives. Now, bearing in mind how careful politicians are supposed to be in just picking the wrong word, which can change the entire tone or narrative of a subject. The fact that he unequivocally, almost proudly, used the word control, I thought was rather interesting. This was the first conference speech. He invoked the sort of take back control slogan. I don't know whether he was trying to appeal to Brexiteers or he was just having a bit of a laugh. But he warned that this is the direction of travel. Areas that he claimed would benefit from government control: NHS, energy, justice, education, the office and the economy. I don't think he's talking about the sitcom. 0344 499 1000. So I'm going to throw the question out there. What areas of life do you... I mean, I said yesterday, we were talking about potholes. I want the government, local government, my local authority to fix potholes. Yes. If we're going to have an NHS, I know it cannot be a one-size-fits-all, but I want it to work efficiently for what it is. It's never going to be the greatest health service in the world. With the best will in the world, nothing to do with the clinicians, merely to do with the sheer size, the amount that's required in terms of money and the effort to keep those clinical cogwheels turning, is this monolithic idea that that could be the best ever healthcare anywhere on planet Earth. That's a nonsense, all right? But I do want the government to kind of look after it and have a version, the best version they can in health. We know that. I want them to send bad people to jail for long periods of time. But this was the bit that kind of flummoxed me a little bit, as I was just saying to Julia. Areas that he claimed would benefit from government control. He said he was willing to be unpopular, saying the construction of more controversial pylons in the countryside was one example of that. I noticed that in the last couple of hours, Priti Patel has responded to that. She said, shocking from Starmer, we already have solar farms and pylons in this part of Essex. She's an Essex MP, of course, playing our part to generate and transmit electricity. Our new offshore wind farms need to be connected through an offshore grid. Only the Conservatives will stand up for the countryside and the voices of local people. Well, clearly not enough because they lost the election. But this bit I thought was even more telling. Starmer says, when it comes to he's willing to be unpopular, that we will have to accept asylum seekers. Accepting asylum seekers were trade-offs that the public would have to accept. So he's not talking about immigrants or migrants coming to this country on a work visa to work. He's talking about asylum seekers, people who come across the channel in boats the last time I looked. We will have to accept this as a trade-off. What is the I'm a reasonably bright bloke. I've followed this story for years. I've followed the channel problem with France versus the UK since the old Sangat camps back in the day. I was over there doing radio shows and documentaries back in the day. It's gone on forever. What is the trade-off? What specifically, when it comes to asylum seekers, is the trade-off? You'll have to accept some asylum seekers as a trade-off. OK, I understand the sentence, but the sentence would then complete itself with what the trade-off is. So, for example, if he said you've got to accept asylum seekers and the trade-off is all of those asylum seekers will be trained up and will work in construction. I might not agree with that, but that would make linguistic sense, intellectual sense. Might be politically wrong, but it would. Hasn't said that. Accepting asylum seekers were trade-offs the public would have to accept. What the heck does he mean by that? What is the is the trade-off, and this was Julia's best guess, processing asylum seekers? So, hang on, that doesn't make sense either. So we've got to accept asylum seekers, and the trade-off is we will process them quickly. Right. Well, that doesn't work, right? Is that it? I mean, that's so confusing. But nonetheless, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Have you noticed, by the way, talked a lot about light at the end of the tunnel. Do you remember Sunak last year? Light at the end of the tunnel was the Starmer thing. He said he would take long-term decisions now. And, of course, Sunak at the last Tory conference, his slogan was long-term decisions for a brighter future. It's essentially the same thing. And look how that ended up. I want to gauge your thoughts on this. 0344 499 1000. How much control should the government have over our lives? What's your reading of that? What are the areas you think, yep, I want the government to take control of that. I don't want them interfering with this, this and this. So I'll throw that question out there as the obvious one. But the second one, what's the trade-off for accepting more asylum seekers? Or any asylum? What is? How do you read that statement? I can't make head and a tail of what the heck it's supposed to mean.